Sorry, do I know you?
That's Sean Godfrey, the footballer.
Retired footballer.
Sean Godfrey.
Sean Godfrey.
Sean Godfrey.
Sean Godfrey.
Hello, Sean Godfrey. Stupid Sean Godfrey. Sean Godfrey. Stupid Sean Godfrey. Sean Godfrey.
Sean Godfrey.
Shut the fuck up!
If you live in the UK, you probably know what Tracy Beaker is, but if you don't, it's about kids that live in a care home. This show was a lot of things. It could be funny but also very emotional, and a lot of people grew up with it. Then in 2010, Tracy Beaker Return started airing, showing an older Tracy as she returns to the dumping ground as a care worker. This show was also really good. Most of the cast were entertaining, and it once again had really solid emotional moments. Then in 2013, the dumping ground started airing. This show doesn't focus on Tracy and instead focuses on the remaining kids from Tracy Beaker Returns. This show is still going to this day, and although it started off strong, it has taken quite a decrease in quality in my opinion. But that's a whole video in itself, so I won't go into it now. Anyway, that brings us to early 2021 with the subject of this video, My Mum Tracy Beaker. If you hadn't been keeping up with the dumping ground, My Mum Tracy Beaker would be the first time in 8 years since you'd last seen Tracy Beaker on screen. So understandably, a lot of people were excited to see it. So, was it any good?
What do you want from me?
Nothing! You ruined everything! You spoiled it all!
Before I get into my many problems with this show, I thought I should mention all the things I like, a list that ended up being much longer than I thought. First off, I think the show starts off very solid. We're given insight into how Tracy's life has changed since Tracy Beaker returns, where she is now, what her job is, and we're shown Tracy and Jess's relationship, which I think they handled really well. It's really nice to see Tracy having a child of her own and wanting Jess to have everything she didn't. I also really like this line.
You just wrote about your mum. Anyone could do that.
You couldn't.
It's kind of a throwaway line, but I think it's a nice bit of foreshadowing into how Tyrone's mum treats him. Carly is so out of order, it's honestly great.
You need to be a little bit more realistic. Sean Godfrey may not be perfect, but you really think you can do any better?
Like, who says that? I genuinely think they did a really good job of her awful personality, and when Tracy defends Cam and praises her for being a better mum than Carly, I really did like that scene.
She did. Me. Cam gave me a home. Somewhere I felt safe for the first time in my life. So if you have one word to say against my mum, Camilla Lawson, you'll be the one standing at the window waiting for me, and I won't ever be coming.
The little references to the other shows were nice, I guess. And I like the font. Yeah, that's about it. Now, let's talk about the stuff that I don't like. So, I see the vision, right? Imply that he's shifty so that we would pick up on it. But the scenes they try this in are so goofy that I can't take them seriously to save my life. Let's take the scene where they're eating the food Sean made. Sean gets so angry at Jess not wanting to eat the steak, it's hysterical.
I don't like it. Why can't Alfie have it?
You didn't even try it.
Obviously, they do this to show he's a bit dodgy, but it just doesn't work for me because he's getting angry over something as trivial as whether Jess wants to eat his steak or not. Then straight after this, Tracy obviously doesn't like the fact that he just yelled at her child over prime fillet steak, so they leave. And then Sean pulls up in Tracy's mum's imaginary car, and Tracy literally calls out the fact that he's attempting to buy them back, but he succeeds anyway.
Then stop trying to buy us.
I'm not. I just wanted to give you a present.
It all just happened so fast. Sean was introduced like 10 minutes ago and now he's proposing. Obviously way more time has passed in universe.
But this is not another boring fancy restaurant.
But to us it hasn't felt that long, so it just felt way too fast for me. I really do think they would have benefited from a longer runtime to further flesh out Tracy and Sean's relationship, because as it stands, everything just feels really rushed. It's annoying because I really like what Sean does for Tyrone. He gets him whatever he needs to make it in football, and when he doesn't come to training, he checks up on him. He even goes out of his way to pick Tyrone up for training every time.
Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put you on the Sean Godfrey scholarship.
What's that?
I buy you a new kit and anything else you need. And I'll be around every week to take you to training.
Awesome.
This is all really nice, and this combined with the scene after helps Jess really start to respect Sean. But then, not even 4 minutes later, they reveal he's been having an affair. Him helping Tyrone is like the only time he genuinely goes out of his way to do something nice the whole show. I say this because him buying the Cadillac and making the cardboard house just feel like manipulation tactics to marry Tracy, so I refuse to count them. Having this act of kindness from Sean, then immediately showing him passionately kissing Justine are just way too close to each other. There's not even any hints of the affair. Justine shows up a total of 1 time before the big twist. And that scene is good because we see Tracy and Justine catching up and being adults, as it should be. But after watching this scene back multiple times, there's nothing to suggest that the affair is even happening. And if it hasn't started at this point, then they really should have given us at least some hints so we could guess the twist. Which again shows the pacing issue and honestly my biggest problem with this show. But not my only problem, mind you. Justine in this show is a far cry from what she was in the story of Tracy Beaker, and yes, even her portrayal in Tracy Beaker Returns. Yes, she was, mean Justine Littlewood, but she would never do something like this to Tracy. She would be rude and stuff, but going as far as having an affair would never happen. Hell, when she comes back in Tracy Beaker Returns, even though her and Tracy are extremely childish in that episode, when Tracy finds out the man Justine's with is a scammer, she helps the situation. They even reconcile at the end.
I make good money. Your job changes lives. You doing okay, Beaker?
So Justine's regression in this show doesn't really make much sense to me. Like, let's look at the scene where Tracy gets fired after they fight and the aftermath. Justine comes to Tracy's workplace to gloat about her affair with
Sean Godfrey.
And Tracy mostly ignores her until Jess speaks up and tells off Justine. Justine then tells Jess to shut up and Tracy kicks her into a table.
Leave her alone!
This scene is so goofy to me. The versus screen before the kick is really silly. The stunt double Justine is weird once you notice it. And some of the lines are really, really bad.
All I did was have an affair.
Justine then exits this show until the next one. This is the scene that puts the final nail in the coffin as she is now a cartoon villain. They show hints that her life may not be going as well as she said, but I just never think she would stoop this low just to spite Tracy. I don't think they should have ever used this idea. It's definitely important that I talk about Jess now. I do think Jess's behaviour makes sense. She likes her life now and wants her mum to herself. So once
Sean Godfrey
she shows up, her life starts changing drastically, and it's understandable she wouldn't like it and would be dismissive. It's just, she's a bit annoying.
My mum believes in herself and she doesn't need anybody else to do it for her.
But once again, I do understand her behaviour, and if anything, they did well on that. Aside from the things I've already mentioned, I think there are various small things that make this show even worse. When they show the amount of men Tracy has dumped, she's wearing the same shirt during every single one of them. It's like they didn't even try. Tyrone becomes friends with Jess purely because she knows Sean Godfrey, famous footballer. Instead of maybe having them interact a bit more before Sean shows up, other than that one scene after they fight, they're just best friends now because of
Sean Godfrey.
Jess needs to vomit after all the cake she ate, so she decides to stand up, walk over to Carly, turn her head, then vomit. She didn't do it on purpose allegedly, but she deliberately chose to vomit on her, so what? And finally, the numerous amount of serious scenes that I could not take seriously due to stupid choices and how the characters should act.
Should have told you before. Mum, stop it! Stop it! Please don't hurt yourself! It's okay, Mum. We're home. It'll be okay now. That's the last of our stuff in.
Stop calling me!
Mum!
Some of these may sound like little problems that don't matter that much, but once you have a bunch of small issues throughout each episode, it really adds up and makes the show worse as a result. Rewatching this show was hilarious. I was laughing so much at the things they willingly decided were good ideas. Many people were really glad to see Tracy Beaker on their screens after so long of no new main Tracy Beaker content. So having waited that long and getting this is just really disappointing. I think the show could have really been good, given more episodes and more time to flesh everyone out and not rush through everything in an hour. However, as it stands, this is what we got from My Mum Tracy Beaker. Assassination of characters, rushed relationships, Sean Godfrey. All these things add up, in my opinion, to make this show a great big mess.